Hi everyone, welcome back to Crochet Rocks. My name's Tracy, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to make this kind of granny hexagon. Believe it or not, these are both Aran weight yarns. This is a Caron Pantone, and this one is Poundland Aran. So because this one's nice and big and it will show up well in the tutorial, I'm going to use these colours, although this is lovely and soft. So if I was going to make them, I think I'd be making it out of this. So I have 4 colours, mustard, grey, beige and peach. So I'm going to start off with the centre with this colour, and I've got a 5.5mm crochet hook. You're going to need a trusty darning needle and a pair of scissors. So let's get some yarn out. If you haven't already, might be a good time to mention, if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. I do have quite a lot of tutorials on now, lots of giveaways and lots of live chats and shopping videos and lots of fun. And if you set the notification bell to all, become part of the notification squad. So this particular hexagon starts with a small hole, not the magic circle, but just one that's made with chain. So you make a slip knot. Now this is how I do my slip knots, but you don't have to do it this way. Make it whichever way you prefer. I do have a tutorial on the magic ring and the slip knot if you want to watch that. So I'm going to be using UK terms predominantly, but I will explain the US. So for this particular hexagon, we chain 4. So it's yarn over and pull through. That's how you do a chain. Yarn over, pull through. So we do that 4 times. And then we're going to make a ring. So we're going to insert the hook into the first chain and do a slip stitch, which is yarn over and pull through all of those loops. So now we have this really tiny little ring, and I'm going to chain 2 for my first treble crochet. A treble crochet in the UK is a double crochet in the US. So these are now going to be kind of clusters of 2. So we'll have the first chains count as 1. So now we have 2, and we're going to chain 2, and then we're going to do 2 more treble crochets. I do have a tutorial on how to do the treble crochet, so if you want to watch that and familiarise yourself if you don't really know already, but I won't slow down too much. So now we need to have 6 of these little pairs of our trebles separated by 2 chain. And just to show you, we're doing this part. So we've got 2s, 2 chain, and we need 6 of them all together. So that's my third, I believe. And if you have to, just push them along slightly to make space. You don't really want to do more chain in the center because it does grow while you're making your hexagon. Okay, so I think this one is number 5. I will check. Tail's getting in the way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, so we pull it over slightly, do another pair, and we'll finish off with 2 chain. And now we need to slip stitch into our second of the turn-in chain. If you find that your trebles or double crochet in US are quite tall, you might want to do 3 chain, but I always do 2 because that's sufficient for mine. So with this particular hexagon, there is no easy way of changing colours. So it is just a case of snipping off, ending each colour, and unfortunately a fair amount of either sewing in or working over. So the next colour I went for on this particular one was mustard. So I'll just move this cream coloured out of the way, this beige, and get the mustard. Just bear with me a second. Okay, so you join at any of the gaps. I don't want to join at this one because I don't want to work over two tails, so I will join here. And I found quite simplest way of joining is to pull the yarn through and tie a little knot. Some people do kind of make a loop and then use both to go over it. I do that sometimes, but it tends to make a little bulge, which I don't really like. So then I just reach through and pull up the yarn, tighten that one off, and then I'll do my 2 chain. And so now we are doing this part here, and this consists of 5, a cluster of 5 treble crochet. So that counts as our first, those chain, and we do 4 more in this gap. Now with the first one that I didn't do any chain between. And with this one I did, and it does look a little more spaced out. So it really is how you prefer it to look. If you like it looking chunkier like this, we won't do the chain. But if you want a nice gap in between and it to look a little bit more spaced out, then do a chain in between the clusters. But I'm not going to, because I quite liked the chunky look. I was just experimenting. So now we do 5 in each of our gaps, just as we did in our last one. It makes its own little gap anyway, doing 5. So that's how we do it. And I'm going to pause the video. I am going to go over this this tail this time, and I will pause the video and I will meet you again when I get round here. But each of these gaps between our 2, we're doing 5. Hope you saw that. Okay, I'll see you when I get to the end. Okay, so I've done my last 5, and with this one I'm going to try and get both loops of my it's really difficult when you're doing it this way, because I can't actually see with the camera in the way, but I want to sort of slip stitch into those two loops there. Get in, there we go. And so yeah, that's won't come through that one now. There we go. Being difficult. So again, snip off and pull that yarn down. So now we've got our first 2 rounds, and our third round gets a little different. We're now making our little corners. So I'm going to use the peach colour. I've got rid of the, I will get rid of the, don't want them to tangle, so I'll just move that one over there and get the peach yarn. And so this one we attach in the centre of one of our clusters, and that will be the third one. So there's 1, 2 into the third one, and just join the yarn the same way, pull it through. You join your yarn in whichever way you're used to it and you feel comfortable, but that's how I always do it, really. I do experiment now and then with other ways, but that's the way I prefer. So this time I'll pull that one down because that's really my join. This time we want the equivalent of a treble plus a chain. So I don't count that first one, so I've done 3, and I do another treble crochet. Remember, that's a double in US terms, in the same stitch. So I've made a V. Okay, so I'm just going to show you on this one here. So then we go into the gap. So we've made our V here, and now we're going to go into the gap. And we're going to do 5 treble crochets into that gap. Doesn't matter that there's not a chain, it will force its own space. If you prefer it with that more defined gap, do you need to pull some yarn, then by all means do a chain in between. And then in the center, so you've got to pull side. Remember, this is the first one, second, so this is our third. In the center, we're going to make the V. So we do a chain, and then, so we're making V, then a cluster into the gap, V into the center, and now another cluster into this gap, and I'll work over that tail. And that's how we proceed with this round. It just repeats until we get to the end. So that's my fifth one. So there we are. So I'm going to pause the video and I will meet you back at the start. Just remember to pull that slightly when you're counting. There's your middle one. That's your V, and then you'll do a cluster and you'll repeat that until the end. I'll pause the video and I'll see you back at the start. Okay, so I made it all the way around. I've got my V's and my clusters, and now I'm going to make my slip stitch into that. Very hard to get into. Oh, do you know what? Where are we? There we go. It's just doesn't really want me to get in, does it? Which is lovely when you're doing it on a tutorial. So, cut that yarn off. Although this one does start in the center of a V, but I didn't really want to make that part look different. But if you can already see how different this one looks to this one by not putting those chains in between this round. So the last round, let's get rid of the peach colour. The last round is with the grey. And in this round, we are making the sides flatter. So that's just a little bit different this round. But we are starting in the V. I'm just going to pull out some yarn. We're ready to go, which is unusual. And I find this happens quite a lot, but it's weird. But sometimes the darker colours are softer. And that's definitely true of this particular Poundland Aran. The grey one, you can see it's much floppier. So I'm just going to tie that. Now, we're going to do our V's, but this time we have a chain between them. That's the only difference with our V's of this round. But again, I'm not counting that one, so I'm going to do two chain, one chain for the center, and then complete the V. One chain. Now we're going to go into each one of these stitches. The first one, we're just going to go into the stitch and do a treble crochet. The second one, we're going to do a treble crochet. And in the third middle one, we want a shorter stitch. So we're going to do a half treble, or in the US, that's called a half double. We just go through all three. It makes a shorter stitch, and that pulls our sides in to stop it looking more circular. And we do two more trebles. So it is two trebles, one half treble, two treble, and then we do one chain and our V into the V. And one chain. So before the V and after the V, we do a chain. So again, we do one treble in the first two, and then we do a half treble, a half double, shorter stitch, and then our trebles again, and a chain, and then our V, and that's our repeat. So I'm going to pause the video and I will meet you back at the start. Just remember, before the V and after the V is a chain, and the center of our stitches is a half treble or half double. I'll meet you back at the start. Okay, so I've made it all the way around, and don't forget at the end you need to do the chain before you attach to your, and I might have to take this off camera to get into this because it's very dark, so bear with me a second while I just slip stitch into there. I may have to abandon the idea actually of going into those two loops. That might be better. So that's how we make this little granny hexagon. and I think it's really cute. But what I thought would be a good idea was if you did, the tails are getting in the way, you might have to pull it into a little bit more shape as it's been worked more or less in the round. Just kind of insist on those corners a little bit, and then you can see it takes shape as a hexagon. I think I prefer that one to this one with the larger holes. I've not really got a plan to make with these. I was just going to put things on them, like make kind of pot stands or something, but you could make the solid hexagon and make a blanket with some of these and some of the solid ones, or just make them all different colours and sew them together as a blanket. Be quite nice. But that's the granny hexagon. So thanks so much for watching, and bye bye for now.